Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on your SmackDown WWE main event, Superstars, SmackDown portion of the recordings, and your Saturday Morning Slam results, and some brief WWE and former wrestler news, happy birthdays, and what have you. Alright, former WWE TNA creative writer Vince Russo turned 52 years old. On Tuesday, controversial Russo was released as head of TNA Creative in February 2012 and has not been seen since. Former ECW wrestler Mike Awesome, aka Michael Lee Alfonso, would have been 48 years old on Tuesday, two-time ECW champion and standout star in Japan. Awesome worked his last show in February 2006 and was found dead in his home just 1 year later, after hanging himself. Former NWA manager Playboy Gary Hart, aka Gary Richard Williams, would have turned 71 on Tuesday. Hart was considered as one of the greatest wrestling managers of all time. In his interviews discussing the loss of some of the guys he managed with the triumph and tragedy of WCCW, is some of the most emotional and compelling I have ever seen in wrestling history. Hart died of a heart attack in March of 2008. I had always wondered what happened to him, and with my back checks and what have you, I did finally find out. In an ironic twist, Bobby Duncombe Jr., whose father, Bobby Sr., was managed by Gary Hart, passed away on the same day in 2000 in an accidental overdose of painkillers while recovering from shoulder surgery. Bobby was a member of the West Texas Rednecks in WCW along with Kurt Hennig, Barry Windham, and Kendall Windham. The three men who played officers on Monday's show from San Jose were Dave Dutra from All Pro Wrestling with a main speaking role, J.R. Kratos from Supreme Pro Wrestling in the middle, and Julio Pedrosa was the third guy. Clip from Stone Cold's upcoming movie, The Package, which will release on Blu-ray and DVD on February 19th. Go to youtube.com/watch, ? V equals capital G, capital S, little q, big K, big M, 8, W-E, big L, little g, big K. Pete Alcazar and Trent Dozier were at the Raw show and sent in the Superstars results from the Raw tapings. Dark match, Usos defeated Primetime Players. Usos won with a Superfly Splash. Superstars match was Kofi Kingston defeating JTG. Kingston won with a Trouble in Paradise in 4 minutes 40 seconds. Thanks to Reed Albright for Albrecht for the SmackDown portion. Highlights with WrestleMania 28 to hype the sales for WrestleMania 29. And the SmackDown portion was Divas champion Caitlyn defeating Oksana. Caitlyn won with a spear in about 4-minute match. The crowd was surprisingly into it. And match number 2 was Great Khali with Hornswoggle defeating Epico with Primo. Crowd went nuts for Hornswoggle. The match was pretty one-sided, with Khali winning after a choke slam. Primo got mad after the loss and demanded a match with Khali. So both of them. And the Great Khali beat Primo after a few minutes on the ground following an assault on his knees. Khali rebounded with a big chop to get the win. Alright, and back to... Okay, yeah, that was Superstars. Okay, Saturday Morning Slam. Kofi Kingston and Brodus Clay defeated the Primetime Players. The crowd enjoyed the shuck and jive, as did I, the reporter, in honesty. It was my first time seeing it live. The best pop of the match was a flip by Kofi off of Clay's back onto the outside, following the Primetime Players, calling a timeout. Clay scored the win following a Call My Mama splash. The match went about 10 minutes long. Following the win, Kofi and Clay brought in several kids from the audience and they danced. and it went well over with the crowd. Match number 2, Justin Gabriel over Kurt Hawkins. This kicked off what appeared to be a botched ring jump by Gabriel. The match was quite good overall and ended with an impressive flip off the top rope by Gabriel, who won by pinfall in just under 10 minutes. And the same reporter reports on SmackDown. The show opened with a numbers promo video for the Rumble, followed by an interview with Ryback. Ryback made a joke about turning Antonio Cesaro into Swiss cheese. After the joke, it seemed that Matt Striker was going to pee his pants. Cesaro started blasting Ryback while en route to the ring. This started in on Americans feeling entitled, which garnered a lot of boos. Ryback intros cut him off. Match number 1, Ryback defeated Antonio Cesaro by count out. The match was dominated by Ryback, as you would expect. At one point, Cesaro was trying to hide outside the ring when he was tossed back in the ring by The Miz. Cesaro was getting manhandled by Ryback and was about to be finished off when he ended up on the outside of the ring and walked off with Ryback getting the win as a result of the count out. Big Show cut a promo bragging about his plans to win the Rumble while using his fist to intimidate Matt Striker, who again looked like he was about to pee his pants. Match number 2, Cody Rhodes and Damien Sandow defeated the Uso brothers. Damien Sandow and Cody Rhodes bragged about ridding the WWE of unwashed tag teams once they win the titles. Team Rhodes Scholars won after a botched top rope finisher, followed by a small package by Sandow in 12 minutes 32 seconds. Okay, again, it must have been that must have been something else. This is a separate report. SmackDown kicked off with a huge applause for JBL, who was introduced on commentary. Apparently Sacramento missed him since the last time he was in town. The show opened with a highlight reel from Monday's Raw, bringing everyone up to speed on CM Punk and The Rock and Del Rio and Big Show storylines. Team Hell No came out to the ring and watched completely and unamused as the recap from the group hug played on the Titantron. Kane promised to prove that Team Hell No has not gone soft and will prove it at the Rumble. Some friction between the two arose when Kane promised to win the Rumble and beating Rhodes Scholars after a back and forth over who's going to win. The Borgasms, I should say. Big Show's music interrupts. And Big Show whined about his loss to Alberto Del Rio and ordered Kane and Bryant out of the ring. As the tension grew, Team Rhodes Scholars came to the ring and reminded the group of their upcoming match. Sandow called for an alliance to dispose of Bryant and Kane. As the microphone hit the mat, Alberto Del Rio came in and setting the stage for a 6-man tag. Booker T came out and made the match official as the main event for the show. The match had a special stipulation, adding it an elimination style 6-man match. Match number 1, Sheamus defeated Wade Barrett in 10 minutes 29 seconds, fresh off the beat the clock loss. I expected the match to open up with a lot of anger, but instead it was a series of lockups. The match picked up speed halfway through and had about entertaining back and forth action. Sheamus hit Brogue Kick and followed up with a pinfall. And then they aired a video for Raw Roulette for next Monday's Vegas show. Match number 2, Natalya with Great Khali and Hornswoggle defeated Rosa Mendez with Primo and Epico in 2 minutes 44 seconds. Natalya won by submission. Must have been a sharpshooter. CM Punk came to the ring to address the events of Raw to a surprising amount of the crowd, considering the heel angle. Punk's promo revolved around his future potential and his reign as champion, as he began to say one thing and then disrupt his potential by the crowd erupted into rock chants. Heyman read the executive order from the WWE regarding the loss of the championship. If the Shield gets involved, Punk called out the Shield and refused to leave until they came out. All three members of came out from the crowd and circled the ring where Punk stood armed with a chair. Punk ordered the Shield to stay out of his way. After a few tense stares, the Shield left the ring and Punk continued his best in the world rant when the Rock's music hit. The Rock wiped the floor with Punk on the mic and then left the ring. Punk picked up the mic again and started calling Sacramento trash. The Rock came back out. A fist fight broke out, followed by a huge rock bottom. Sacramento has apparently gotten over the Rock concert from 2003 because the ovation here was amazing. Match number 3, Randy Orton defeated Drew McIntyre by disqualification in 1 minute 7 seconds. McIntyre and Orton had the unfortunate job of following the Rock and Punk confrontation. Sacramento went nuts for the Apex Predator. Orton was attacked by one of the members of 3MB, which resulted in the ref calling for the bell. As a result, Orton hit the RKO and the middle draping DDT on all 3 members. Match number 4, Miz defeated Darren Young. Antonio Cesaro came to the ring waving the American flag, followed by the primetime players. Cesaro joined in on commentary. Miz came out with pretty big applause with Cesaro on commentary. I'm assuming there will be some sort of retribution for our main event. As an homage to Ric Flair, the Miz put on the figure 4 on the primetime player's opponent and made him submit while staring at Cesaro. Match number 5, Alberto Del Rio, Kane, and Daniel Bryan beat Big Show, Cody Rhodes, and Damien Sandow in the 6-man elimination main event in 13 minutes. The main event kicked off with Alberto Del Rio riding high on babyface, wave slapping high fives and generating a lot of cheers. Team Hell No was also a big hit with the fans. Del Rio and Rhodes started the 6-man elimination match in the ring. Both chain grappled and back and forth until Del Rio hit a big body slam. Crowd around the reporter said that their attention diverted temporarily by the drunk redneck doing a Randy Orton top rope arm stretch on a box seat rail and almost fell over. First participant eliminated was Damien Sandow by Kane by pinfall. Big Show then entered the ring and exchanged blows with Kane. Ultimately ended up outside. Big Show threw Kane into the ring post, which knocked him to the ground. Kane was unable to get to his feet and was counted out by the ref. Rhodes and Bryan exchanged blows and had some impressive chain grapples. Big Show was tagged in and had the upper hand on Bryan. Bryan got the upper hand and attempted a jump from the top rope, but was hit with a Big Show punch that knocked him out of the ring. Bryan was unable to get to his feet and he was counted out. Del Rio was left with the task of eliminating Big Show and Cody Rhodes. After being manhandled by Big Show, Del Rio was able to hit the super kick on Show, who was on the apron, knocking him to the outside. Big Show was 10 count eliminated by outside. Del Rio and Rhodes battled it out until Del Rio hit a kick to Rhodes, hit in the corner, scoring the pinfall. Del Rio's celebration was short-lived as Big Show returned to the ring and began an after-the-match assault, which ended up with Big Show pushing a table on Del Rio. And then somewhere during the show, WWE announced backstage that Brad Maddox and his personal cameraman, Carson, was attacked backstage and was injured. So, WWE.com story states that they were taken to the hospital thanks to .net reader Cohen Morrison. And after the SmackDown, they had a dark match to close out the entire show. Big Show came back out and started trash talking in the arena and demanding that Alberto Del Rio be rolled back to the ring. Show challenged Del Rio to a title match tonight. Del Rio asked for the bell. Show announced that the match was no DQ. Alberto Del Rio defeated Big Show in a no DQ match to retain the title. Bell rang and Show manhandled Del Rio momentarily. Del Rio was ultimately able to put Big Show through a table with a bulldog from the top rope and scored the pinfall to retain the championship. Any comments on a kid stealing his collector cup and an idiot dressed head to toe like John Cena, lifetime championship belt and all, getting in people's faces all night? The show was pretty good, and he hasn't been to a live show since 2005, and look forward to seeing WWE the next time they come to Sacramento. And that ends my WWE results for this week. Peace out.